Well, good morning, Bakersfield. Surrounding communities, everybody watching online on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're in for.
We'll get into all sorts of stuff. There's some stories coming out of the NFL as the combine is starting up.
Absolutely.
So we'll get into that. Some trades. I saw Mel Kiper's mock draft. His first mock draft came
He had
out.
a safety at number 2.
Yeah,
and I know Caleb Towns is a baller, but a safety? Wow.
We'll get into that, plus much more. We got some NBA, WNBA news. Plus, we'll have the BC men's basketball coach join us at 8 o'clock live from San Diego as they are getting ready to start the state playoffs. We'll hear about that. Plus, we'll talk a little Condors. It's Wednesday, so that means Ryan Holt will join us at 8:30.
And we got to talk about that incredible run by the men's and women's ice hockey teams with Ryan as well. I know he's got his thoughts and comments on that. The world of hockey is at a buzz right now, and hopefully that means the NHL gets a little bit of a boost in the viewership numbers as well as they head towards the Stanley Cup playoffs. But we do have to start in the NFL because it's combine time. Everybody's excited, and I now hear more and more shows, Sparky, echo what we have been saying for weeks, which is Fernando really the number 1 overall pick? Now, again, not saying skill-wise the kid doesn't deserve to be, but if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, which we cover extensively on this show and on this radio station, being KGEO Sports Talk, our affiliate is the Raiders, they got a lot of problems they got to fill. And as much as a lot of you Raider fans believe that they could fix that in free agency and then just pick up a quarterback and you guys are magically now the Bears, I don't see that being the case. I really don't. You're going to have to do a lot of movement this offseason in order to make a team make this team competitive like they want to. And with the looming question of, is Max Crosby even going to be there next season? That's also going to be a massive talking point throughout this entire offseason. Will they trade him away and get some draft stock? Because that's what they want. Can they even trade him away because of this injury that he is still dealing with and recovering from at the facilities every single day, from what we understand? And we've heard from Max multiple times say, I just want to play football and be left the F alone. And honestly, at this point, that's probably the best answer you could possibly hear from Max Crosby.
And you could read it all over his face. I mean, both of us have been down to the Raiders in the last season, and you can see it from a mile away when you're with Max Crosby.
Yep.
The guy it's not an attitude problem. He's just been stuck in the situation. He's seen the coaches go. He's seen the different, mindsets of the Raiders, and with the 1-year rental with Pete Carroll.
Yep.
What does that mean for Gino? Is he on the block? Is Fernando the best decision to make at the number 1 pick? And I've heard a lot of different sports shows. I mean, going into Drake Toll yesterday, he was saying the same thing. If, Mendoza, yeah, he's probably the best option this season, but it might be best option to maybe get a rental with a veteran type quarterback and start filling these holes.
Absolutely.
As next year's quarterback, rookie class seems to be a lot more competitive.
Very, very, very extensive long list of quarterbacks coming out next year. And that's why I've been saying for the last, couple weeks, if not months, as much as I love Fernando seems like a very upstanding guy. Can't wait to see what he does in the league. Just don't think taking him first overall would be the best solution if you're a Raider right now. You have a lot that you need to fill. There are a lot of young, talented players in this draft that you can capitalize on drafting and probably just compound more and more draft picks as you go, especially if you trade back from this number 1 spot and get, I don't know, the Jets to give you a surplus of picks, because they will. And you reassess this next season when you have an offensive line and a couple skill players that a quarterback will actually be able to throw to. Remember what we talked about when Caleb Williams came into the league? Everybody was talking about the Bears as if this is the best location and the best setup for any rookie quarterback coming in. We swiftly learned that was not true. True, the skill players were there, but they had no offensive line. So no matter what shiny new toy you find for Fernando to throw to down there in Vegas, doesn't really matter. As long or if you don't get an offensive line to protect him, if you don't have a team that's ready to actually allow him to develop into the quarterback you want, you're just stunting his growth. You're stunting your own growth. And then 3-4 years down the line, when you're sitting there thinking, wow, was this a mistake? And you missed out on Archie Manning and Darren or Dante Moore. And,
And that has been brought up that, the Raiders were actually looking at Dante and were on the fence
absolutely
on getting Mendoza at 1. So once he saw, I'm going to play another year in college and, pulled himself out, I think it kind of put into that mix where maybe a quarterback needy team that is a little bit closer to where the Raiders are, that, maybe they'll, I would say, maybe offer something big, or, maybe like we had said, maybe they get a couple picks for Max Crosby. I don't know how hungry a team is going to be to give up maybe 1-2 first rounders plus a caliber player.
Right.
And I think that would be, if the Raiders, obviously you don't want to get rid of a guy like Max Crosby, but if you were, if you can get a caliber receiver and
a couple
another draft pick or two
picks out of it,
you can't pass on that.
No, especially with all the needs that you have right now, there's no way they could say no to that. And as much as the fan base loves Max, or some of them do, some of them are turning on him as we speak.
I see that,
which is ridiculous.
I'll take him.
I would too.
In a hot second.
And again, I think it's ridiculous just because this guy was literally your whole team for years. I mean, I've seen Atlanta fans do the same thing to Matt Ryan. You guys are ridiculous. Like, fans are so fickle nowadays that it's like, if you don't create a Super Bowl for this team, they don't want you. Not everybody can be Tom Brady. Not everybody can be LT. You got to calm down on that. This guy has been the heart and soul of your franchise for God knows how long, and he didn't need to stay here this long. He could have demanded a trade months, if not years ago, and would have been completely warranted for doing so. The Raiders have been an embarrassment. Let's be blunt. So for the fan base to turn on the one guy that makes you guys look good is absolutely absurd. That's why I'm sitting here thinking, for those fans who are calling out, fine, trade him. He doesn't want to be here. He don't need to be a Raider. Raiders are this, Raiders are that. Raiders are losers right now.
Right.
So I would shut your mouth and allow Tom Brady to find a way to fix that for you before you start demanding people leave the locker room.
I think what I've heard from a lot of Raider fans is they're still a little sour with Khalil Mack's trade, and they seem okay. So nobody wants to be here. I don't think it's they don't want to be there. Everyone is interested in being in Vegas.
Absolutely.
And it's a great location. The Raiders have a back history that goes way back, the greats, the Al Davis years, all this. And I think they're just almost in that place where they're just fed up.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the real Raider fans, which I know several we've talked to, I would say they just need that attitude adjustment and go back to the good old Raider days.
Absolutely.
And I think Max Crosby is the only player that jumps out and says, I have that Raider attitude.
Oh, 110%. And that's why I can't understand why the fan base has turned on him so much, or at least some of them. I can't say all of them have, but a good amount of Raider fans that I've heard from in this offseason have said, F Max Crosby, trade him now. We don't want him here anymore. He sucks, or he's this, or he's that. He's also the whole defense. He's also the sole reason you beat a certain amount of teams this year. Like, I don't understand it. I really don't. But that's just how fan bases are these days. Everybody is very much just give it to me now. And if you can't, then get out.
And I think a lot of it are going off of the comments that they didn't understand fully when he was benched.
Yes.
Because that guy wanted to play through and throughout injuries and just wanted to play football.
Here's the thing. Fans get so upset when we don't get that. Fans turn on player. I mean, look what's happening with Peterson right now in Kansas. I mean, and he's 19 years old, is just now getting put into the limelight of national sports. and we're already turning on that kid because he's got ankle and knee injuries or cramping issues or whatever. And again, we still don't know the full truth of what's happening in that area. But when the fan base wants you to sit there and play through an injury, but a team says, no, we want you to sit and heal so you're 100% for next year, which is the smart thing to do, especially when you got nothing to play for. As much as we know Max wants to be on the field, it makes sense why you held him off. But of course, the fans up in arms. Oh, how's he not playing? He's not actually hurt. Oh, he's on the sideline. Shut up.
Well, say you were in the Raiders upper management. I mean, what are you looking at this offseason? Are you fully sold on
Offensive line.
Mendoza?
No.
Are you drafting elsewhere? Are you trading out?
I am sold on Mendoza's skill level. I think Mendoza would be a great quarterback for the Raiders, but where you are sitting right now, for me, I'm going to stay on what I've been saying for months. Trade it away. Trade the first round draft pick or first overall pick away to the Jets or whomever is willing to give you the biggest surplus of draft picks, and I mean in number, and maybe even find a trade for Max and build draft capital for this year and next year. If you can figure out an offensive line situation within a year, you'll be able to have a franchise quarterback actually develop with the Raiders, and then he will go nowhere.
And a lot of people in the next year's draft would be probably a lot happier. I'll go to Vegas. Look at that offensive line they build. Look
Absolutely.
We got a backfield. We got a defense. I mean, it will be a lot more lucrative. It'll look like, okay, this team knows where we're going.
And I know if you have a great quarterback, your team's success can turn around in a flash. That is absolutely true. But if you don't have an offensive line to protect that quarterback, it doesn't matter if you have Patrick Mahomes or Fernando Mendoza, it's going to look rough. There's going to be moments that could really falter that quarterback's development. Or, God forbid, an injury pops up because somebody didn't block correctly, and now Fernando is out for the entire year because your left tackle couldn't stop a runny nose. So, in my opinion, and again, it's not the popular one, although everybody seems to want to piggyback off of it now, even though I've been getting grief for it for months, trade away the pick, let the Jets take Fernando, and you guys build an absolutely incredible Oklahoma Thunder style surplus of draft picks.
Yeah, if you can get that second pick on top of probably a player that you would need, maybe a defensive lineman, maybe an offensive lineman.
Right.
Pick up that. Plus, on top of that, trading Max Crosby, you're going to get a high draft pick and probably another lucrative player. Yep. And there's two players right there, plus a stack of draft picks, and they have plenty of salary cap. But my real question is, of course, the leader of everyone's talking about is the quarterback position. You have Geno still under contract for another year.
Yep.
You just let it play out, or you start looking at maybe rentals of guys maybe like Kyler Murray or even a veteran presence like Kirk Cousins?
I think you're going to need to find a different quarterback just because Geno's already lost the fan base.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I defend the guy, what happened last season, even though, again, awful offensive line play. I mean, worse than what we saw the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Awful.
Oh, yeah. Set them up to fail.
Exactly.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's not necessarily his fault that it happened, but I do think his time in Vegas is over, or at least as the starting quarterback. I think you bring on one of these guys that's a year bridge. Kirk Cousins is a great example. Now that Atlanta finally dropped him. Thank God. Sorry. I think bringing in a guy like that who can at least compete, and if you can build the right team around him with the offensive line, young core players coming in, like you said, maybe a defensive player or defensive rookie of some kind, whatever you want to do to build this team, I think is the best possible route. And then next year, when you probably still have a top 10 draft pick, you're going to have about 5 to 7 quarterbacks that you're going to be able to choose from, including, again, Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Sam Levitt, probably from LSU. You're probably going to have the kid Mayava from USC. Nico Iamaleava from UCLA might be coming in. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of talented quarterbacks that are going to be in this next draft class. I think that you punt on it this year and choose the right one for you next season and then build from that guy. Because like you said earlier, it would look better for the rookie coming in too, that he knows that the team around you is at least competent enough where you can compete right away.
And if you're lucky, one of those bridge quarterbacks, whoever you would pick, that might work.
Yes.
So you might even save that.
Yes.
So, I mean, they've got their own pickle to dig themselves out of. There's a lot of teams. We can get into a lot of these because not only Tua, but Kyler Murray, you know, he just said Cousins, he's free to sign elsewhere. There's also a lot of other quarterbacks that people aren't talking about that have kind of came on. I heard yesterday from Schefter, I believe it was NFL Live he was talking on, but he was talking about even the option of CJ Stroud finding a new home.
You know, I saw the story of that. I had not heard that people were calling for a trade of CJ. I think that's absurd, much like the Houston owner said yesterday as well, because that's how I caught wind of it. Was the Houston owner had, or was it the owner or the GM? One of the two, somebody in the front office had come forward and said that's probably the most lucrative, or I'm sorry, the most ludicrous idea I've ever heard. And I agree with him. I mean, again, CJ had a really rough year, but the sophomore slump is a thing, people. We got to just let this kid get back into the swing of things. And
well, he did finish that comment by saying, well, business is business.
Yes.
And there's always a business transaction that we just couldn't look away from. But can you imagine that? I mean,
no,
I know a couple Texans fans that one is diehard CJ Stroud for life.
Yes.
And the other one is he blames the offensive struggles on CJ Stroud, saying that he makes silly mistakes. I'm like, he is young. And that sophomore slump, we've talked about it. It's real.
It is very real. But the thing that always gets highlighted, and I laugh at it sometimes depending on who it's coming out of, because Derek Carr has talked about it. Lately, Johnny Manziel has talked about it, and that's what made me laugh, because Johnny is one of the first ones that I think about when they think this. But the NFL does have a problem with giving up on these young guys too quickly. That's why we see guys like Sam Darnold shipped around from team to team, and then he wins a Super Bowl with somebody, and everybody's like, oh, who's going to be the next Sam Darnold? Mac Jones. But in this case, I think it's the same situation. Are you really willing to give up on CJ Stroud that early? I think that's a little ridiculous to say. The kid in his rookie season gave us one of the best rookie years we've ever seen from a quarterback. He has a bad injury-riddled year, in which, again, the Texans were uncompetitive the first half of the season. We thought they weren't even going to be in the playoffs, and they turned it around. Maybe, again, you can blame it, or you can give the credit to the defense. You can give the credit to CJ, whoever you want to give it to.
Well, they found their mojo.
They did. They found a way to get back to the playoffs. So is it really that bad? Or are you guys just expecting, again, Tom Brady-like numbers, which every fan has to take a step back and realize you don't have Patrick Mahomes. You don't have Joe Burrow. You don't have Josh Allen. So stop comparing them to them. You have who you have. And honestly, I think that there are a lot of quarterbacks in this league that could win Super Bowls if you just built the right team around them. CJ is one of them.
Yeah, fitting the system.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I think next year, when all of the healing from the injuries gets done and CJ is able to turn this around, I genuinely believe he's going to make every single one of those Houston fans or Adam Schefter, whoever is starting this. Absolutely. They're going to eat them. And everybody's going to remember CJ Stroud, the Ohio State stud, the rookie stud. No one's going to be thinking about the season we had last year where he had to sit half of it because of knee injuries and whatnot. Like, it's just kind of ridiculous that we give up on these people so quickly. It really is.
And in the opposite, I mean, sometimes we put them in too early and it stunts their growth, just like anything. But that's another thing that I worry about is if they bite the hype and go draft Mendoza, don't build a line around him, throw him in there to get beat the hell up.
And then they give up on him in about 2 or 3 years.
Exactly. Once that rookie contract's getting close.
Because they see some crazy athletic quarterback coming out of the draft and they say, we can't pass on this
and
guy.
And immediately call him a bust instead of sending him into a better situation.
And then he gets sent to, I don't know, Minnesota when they're so fed up with J.J. McCarthy that they can't handle it anymore. And then he becomes the best quarterback in the NFL. Why? Because, again, mistakes are being made by giving up or not setting these rookies up for success from the get-go. It's not that difficult here, people. It's really not. And I know a lot of Raider fans are listening and saying, our biggest problem is just drafting those players. Are we drafting the right ones? You guys have drafted fine outside of a handful of linemen, I grant you. Stay away from the Alabama linemen, as most of you know already. But you're not picking the bad players in terms of skill level. Henry Ruggs, again, off the field, menace. On the field, menace. He was fantastic. Max Crosby, Khalil Mack, we talked about him. They have successful draft picks. Your problem isn't drafting, your problem is keeping them there. And the only way you're going to keep them there is if you build a winning culture. How do you build a winning culture? Make the right decisions. So, Tom, for the love of God, make the right decision. Let's put the Raiders back on the tracks, headed towards the right direction, especially now that we see the Kansas City Chiefs headed a certain direction, and potentially the Denver Broncos, if Sean Payton and Bo Nix can't figure out this whole scuffle between the two of them and the HIPAA laws and whatnot. But at this point, the Raiders do not have that long of a track really to truck down in order to be back and competitive in the West. Just make the right decision. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll talk about all of the GMs that talked yesterday, as Sparky mentioned earlier. Mr. Sullivan had some key words to say about Tua Tagovailoa, and in his credit, every single bite I heard from him yesterday, it's the exact same answer. So he knows exactly what he wants to do. And then the other side of the coin as well, the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry has come out and said some interesting words about their quarterback future and the competition that's going to be happening next season. So we'll talk about that and much, much more right here on the Early Bird Special on KGEO Sports Talk. Welcome back. Every time I hear Rage, and I love Rage, okay? I have to preface it with that, but every time I hear them, there are like a handful of wrestling walkout songs that
Oh,
sound exactly like them.
They did a lot of them too.
They did. Did they really?
Yeah, they did the DX.
Oh yeah. No, I knew about those, but I'm
Those
more saying
Attitude
like
Eras, they used a lot of them.
modern day guys still kind of use the same flair, and it sounds good, but it's like it always makes me wonder. It's like, is this one of their walkout songs, or is this just
Is this a
Rage
real
Against the
Rage
Machine?
song?
Again, we got to get into the talking points from the combine, which starts, I believe, today. If it didn't start yesterday, uh, one of the biggest ones though was John Eric Sullivan from the Miami Dolphins walking around, and everybody obviously having the questions. What's going on with Tua? We all saw the fallout with Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb earlier. There's a $99 million price tag that's sitting on the starting quarterback right now in Miami. What is the future? And this is the consistent answer that John Eric Sullivan, former official of the Packers, now GM for the Miami Dolphins, had to say about the future at the quarterback position.
We're evaluating the entire roster, right? As it pertains to Tua, I know that question is coming, so I'll just get ahead of the curve. We've had conversations with Tua and his representation. Everything's on the table, including the potential of a trade. We don't know which way that's going to go. There's a lot of different factors at play, a lot of conversations being had. But evaluating the roster, Quinn did a nice job towards the end of the year. Excited about what's ahead for him. Tua, I thought, even though things didn't go well at the end of the year, did some good things along the way. And it's my job to infuse competition into that room along with every other room as we go down the road.
So obviously the Miami Dolphins will be at least considering some movements here for the starting quarterback or former starting quarterback. Obviously, you are the expert in the room though about the Miami Dolphins, my friend. So what do you think the avenue is that they're going to be forced to take?
Oh man, it is a tough decision. I mean, obviously going in and wanting to reshape this team starting from the bottom all the way up. And we've heard all these GMs and coaches during the combine, they all, their quarterback needy teams are the ones that are dealing with expiring contracts. Miami's in a weird situation where they can cut Tua, which a lot of NFL teams expect Miami to do. So they're not offering any much or anything bigger than what they could already get through
Right.
free agency. But the position is they can cut him and slice that $99 million over 2 years, where it's 54 one year and 44 the other.
Yeah.
Or they can cut it, eat up the 99 million and just make it a wash this year and go into next season saying, okay, this is all behind us. We've cleared up the books and we don't have to talk about him anymore. Or the third option, without trading, they can keep him, let him, see if how he fits in the on the situation, let him fight for a position. And if he bites into this, I mean, the offensive coordinator, the new coach of the team, they run a run heavy type team with play action, which Tua will fit perfectly in. But I mean, you're going into a position where everyone wants to know, is this the whole Tua experiment over? I would expect Tua to be released. I would expect them to eat the $99 million this year and wash their hands of it.
Right.
And if they can get a team, maybe like the Raiders, I've heard even the Chiefs, as Tua can step in and play for the first half of the season until Mahomes is healthy. I've heard those names. I personally think if I'm walking in, I've heard the years and years, starting with Flores, going into McDaniel. We've seen highlights of him here and there, but it is more of the baggage that comes with the whole Tua, because he's never going to be able to hide from these questions. Every week, it's going to be a Tua question. It's, Tua's stupid comments last year going off and always pointing the finger at someone else. I think if I'm him, I'm cutting Tua, I'm washing my hands of it, and I'm eating the $99 million and I'm putting it back into the future of this team.
So you're saying cut him this year, eat the whole 99 mil in one
Yep.
year rather than split it into two.
Yep.
I agree with that. If you were going to go that route, splitting it into two is only going to make it worse for you.
It stunts what you're trying to build.
Exactly. Unless they, just can't handle it cap wise, because you do have to fill a roster, obviously. My biggest thing when it came to this is I try to narrow it down to the three things. One, obviously, the health of Tua is going to be the concern, because even if you do keep him, is he going to be able to play, or is he going to be able to stay on the field? Two, is keeping, or if you do move off of Tua, is there even an option that's better for you to go to right now? Because again, much like we're talking about with the Raiders, shipping him off is the easy way to go about it. And the fan base would obviously just say, thank God, wash your hands of that mess.
Right.
But is there a better solution for you? Is Quinn really a better quarterback than Tua? I don't think so, or at least not from what I've seen. Is there a free agent that you could really go for that'll be at market value, that's going to be able to come in and fill that spot for Miami and be that guy, at least for a year? Because I would assume if you cut Tua, you're either planning on drafting somebody this year or waiting until next year, which is the third part about this. What can you get out of this? Because you can't just move off of a quarterback like this without getting a draft pick. Again, you're not going to get a first rounder or a second rounder.
Fifth, seventh, something like that.
Yeah, you need a man. You need somebody down the line that's going to be able to fill a roster spot.
I personally have seen names like Malik Willis, which he has a relationship with since they were all in Green Bay. I don't think they go that route, because I don't think, with him being one of the top free agent quarterbacks out here, I think he's going to get overpaid with a different team, whether it's Pittsburgh or, a different team. I personally think they maybe go into not a Band-Aid, but a bridge type quarterback.
Yes.
I think there's also other issues or other options I've seen. I've also seen them trading out because they do have the 11th pick in the first round. I've also seen them trading out of that, trading back, getting a couple late draft picks and picking up a player like, Beck or somebody else, a later quarterback, and testing it out, throwing all these young quarterbacks in a room and letting them build it or fight it out on who's going to play this year.
Right.
That is really going to depend on what they decide to do. I've also heard other mumblings of, trading older players with big contracts like the set Minka Fitzpatrick, which I would hate to lose him again. But if it's building up the cap space and draft picks for the future, I understand. But when you take this position in Miami, knowing what you were going in, what circus you were getting into, these are the big questions that are going to really, build on what these guys are going to be able to do in Miami.
Oh, 100%. Now, because I'm thinking if you do move away from Tua, obviously a quarterback would be coming in this year. I would assume you're going to draft somebody. So let's go down the line here real quick of all the quarterbacks that would be available, at least in the first round, for Miami to consider. Fernando's off the board. There's no way in hell he drops number 11. I just can't. That would be one of the biggest NFL drops in terms of stock I've ever seen, especially with how much this guy has coveted the last couple months. Ty Simpson from Alabama possibly could be there. Is he the solution, though? Nah, probably not. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, same thing. Solid arm, but is he really an NFL starting quarterback? Honestly, don't see it. Carson Beck, you just mentioned, from Miami, multiple time NCAA champion, obviously led Miami back to it this year. Is he really going to be that guy? I don't know. I think a lot of people are writing him off, but he is the most seasoned and the oldest quarterback going in. Drew Aller out of Penn State, highly doubt. He's coming off of a major injury. Cade Klubnik from Clemson, and the names go down from there. I just don't see a quarterback, maybe a John Mateer from Oklahoma.
I don't think they go that route unless they trade out of it and get it a later pick.
Yeah.
But there's so many other holes to fill. I mean, losing Chubb, there's going to be some defensive line issues that they're going to need to fill. There's another offensive line or two that they need. Obviously, the offensive line got better last year, but they need a couple more young guys. And with the cornerbacks, we need cornerback. We need secondary help. I think there's so many different issues. I think that's why I think personally Miami's probably going to trade or get rid of a couple more veterans and continue to build this salary cap up and then cut Tua, eat that $99 million and have a quarterback. Maybe they go after somebody like a Mac Jones or somebody like that can walk in and, on a 1-year prove it type thing, and we'll have the money and probably the draft capital for next year.
I could see it. And honestly, there are a ton of veteran quarterbacks that are currently being shopped around. There's going to be a quarterback carousel this year. I know we always talk about a coach carousel, but there's going to be a quarterback carousel this year.
And I'm going to ask the same thing because there's another team that is kind of going through the same thing with Arizona.
Yep. I was just about to bring up Kyler and the potential that he could potentially be moved maybe to Miami or something like that. That's the other thing that I think is on the table here is maybe we find a 1-for-1 trade that somebody is willing to ship off one of these veteran quarterbacks that they don't want anymore or they're not planning on keeping for Tua. And the only one that really stands out to me would be Arizona. Obviously, Atlanta's already moved off Kirk Cousins. Miami could pick up Kirk for a value deal at this point, much like if you move on from Tua, anybody would probably be getting the same situation with him. I don't know. Again, it goes back to kind of what I said earlier. Are any of these veteran quarterbacks, though, a step up from what you're already getting with Tua? I think they're all pretty much the same ceiling.
Well, say with teams like, say, the Vikings or, the Steelers that are also looking for a quarterback. I think that's where players like Malik Willis or even the Kirk Cousins that'll be out there. I think that's where they fit perfectly. So it kind of where Arizona is almost in the same boat as Miami with a new coach regime coming in, wants to put his own name on what team is on the field. So I think they're kind of in the same situation. Do you see that type of thing where they swap a Kyler Tua type deal?
Maybe not Kyler and Tua, but the one that I'm thinking in my head, maybe Cleveland. Because hear me out on this, and let's play Andrew Berry real quick. This is what Andrew Berry had to say about what they need to see from Shedeur in order for him to really step up and become the franchise quarterback for them.
I think the biggest thing that we want to see from Shedeur is just continued growth. I think he grew a lot from start 1 to start 7. I think certainly, playing more efficiently, not putting the ball in harm's way as much, would be important. While maintaining the ability to produce out of structure and generate explosive plays. You're not going to see all of that in the upcoming months because we're not on the field. So the biggest thing that he can do is learn the new offense, get in with the coaching staff once our offseason program starts, continue to work on his body physically and then make strides when we actually get on the grass.
Now, Mr. Berry did say at the beginning of this answer too, that the starting quarterback decision is ultimately going to be on Mr. Helton. Head coach Helton's going to be able to make whatever decision he wants. But the story that everybody still is talking about, even though I am wrapping my head around it and trying to at least, is the fact that Deshaun Watson is actually going to be getting a chance at being the starting quarterback. You know what kind of sucks about this, though? They're not even talking about Dylan Gabriel. Nobody's talking about Dylan Gabriel. And that is, as much as I didn't care for him as a starting quarterback in Cleveland, kind of messed up.
It's cold.
That's cold. But again, going back to the point I was going to make here, Cleveland has a surplus of quarterbacks that they're not 100% sure are going to be that guy. I see a perfect opportunity here for Cleveland to offload the Deshaun Watson contract and vice versa for Miami. If Miami is willing to take a shot on a guy like Deshaun and say, hey, come down here to Florida and start anew. Let's see what we can do here. I could see that being on the table, especially if Cleveland is just kind of set on Shedeur being the future of the franchise. Because if they are, why not allow him to play out this sophomore season with a brand new head coach and a brand new offense and see what happens for them there as well? And as we just mentioned, you still have Dylan Gabriel as a backup. So it would only make sense to me. Again, Kyler is on the table as well, I would assume. But I don't think that people should really be counting out a possibility that Deshaun Watson gets moved and maybe moved to Miami to start over. I know it's probably not the first quarterback you would want off the board there, my friend.
I mean,
but
we were in the mix when he was first getting traded.
same with Atlanta. That's what I've always thought too. But with Atlanta moving off of Kirk Cousins, that doesn't
What does that mean for
explain that to me.
Atlanta now?
Michael Penix is at least the starting quarterback for now. But I could honestly see Atlanta picking up a quarterback late in this draft and saying, this kid's injury prone ahead of you, so you may see the field this year. And I'm not going to be hurt over it. I'm not. I love Michael Penix.
You got to get somebody at least to compete.
Oh, yes. I love Michael Penix, but I'm an iron sharpens iron guy. If you don't have someone in that same room as you that's pushing you and trying to make you better, you're not going to get better, especially not in the NFL. So with the moving on of Kirk Cousins, I expected that. Now, does that mean that Atlanta doesn't turn back around and give Kirk a much more team-friendly contract? That is on the table, and they have discussed that. But I think the better idea is going into the draft and just saying, we have some of these guys who are going to get slept on, your Mateers or your Carson Becks or wherever, that are going to go in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Why not take a shot on one of them and just see what happens? And if Michael goes down with an injury, much like you guys did with Tua last year, throw in the rookie, see what happens. Because we are in the NFC South, and let's be honest, this is probably the weakest division in football right now, and you could win with a rookie quarterback. You absolutely could. We're going up against an Oompa Loompa and a guy who is losing wide receivers left and right because Mike Evans apparently is not coming back. That shocked the heck out of me.
I keep hearing that too.
I can't believe he wants to leave. Don't get me wrong. He has all the right in the world to really sit there and consider what contract he gets to take. But Mike Evans not in Tampa Bay? That's weird. That just seems so. I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with the entire situation with Chicago right now. It just does not seem right. But let's take a break and we can get into that on the other side. Plus, much more. We've heard many things out of the combine this week, so we got to dive into that. The Vikings are assessing all quarterback options, which means they could draft somebody this season as well, or could just sit with JJ and wait until next season. I mean, we've heard it multiple times on this show and from Viking fans overall. I don't know if everybody even believes JJ could see the field, let alone play on it. So we'll talk about that and much more on the other side. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. Why am I expecting monkeys?
It's the Nature Boy's birthday.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
77 years old.
Woo! God. That's 77?
90.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, he looks way older than 77.
Got a party like the Nature Boy.
I don't want to party like the
I
Nature
can't
Boy.
believe he's still alive. Personally, all the stories I've heard over the years.
There's something, I don't know. Look, there was something in the water back then. I don't know when it comes to the Nature Boy. I mean, Mick Jagger, most of the rock stars. Let's be honest. The fact Ozzy lasted so long. I mean, there's something in the water back then. I have no clue. And talking about people lasting so long,
Paul McCartney.
We didn't get to talk about this yesterday, but Mayweather's back.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, we talked about the entire exhibition match that's going to be happening between him and Mike Tyson here in the next couple of months, but he's making a resurgence and is unretiring from the world of boxing and will be back full force, I suppose. His first match is, of course, the rematch against Pacquiao. Okay.
That's what we needed.
Is boxing dead? I don't want it to be.
Big names are.
We're going to talk to our guy Joel Iriarte tomorrow from Warm Up Athletics and his coach as well. Can't wait to talk to them. They were at the Ryan Garcia fight over the weekend, and honestly, I'm a big Ryan Garcia fan. Glad to see him back, although I hope it's in better mental health because, again, it was getting pretty rough there for the kid for a while. But this can't help the sport. There's no way. There's no way. Like, we're going to just sit there and say that, oh, yeah, Mayweather coming back to fight Pacquiao is what's going to save boxing right now? Really? My God. I don't know.
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it, but I don't want to.
Right.
At this point, where's the line of elder abuse?
I mean, if he's going to fight Tyson and Pacquiao in 1 year,
it's just going to be wild.
My question is it because he needs the money? Because that's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me as well, is that he sees how much money Jake Paul's making on these fights and wants to get in on it. But to unretire altogether and come back to the world of boxing in general, which I would assume means he's going to be making runs for titles because that's the whole point. But this is just wild to me. I cannot understand how or why this is becoming a thing. And I can tell you right now, at least as a loose boxing fan, this isn't saving the sport. I can tell you that.
No.
It's not helping anything.
But before we wrap up the hour, I know we got into the Mike Evans and him probably likely to leave Tampa. We already know he's going to test the free agency. Do you think this is a real deal where he's actually looking for another team, or is he just kind of shopping but to find a price and then come back to Tampa?
I think it's both. I think he's willing to walk away, especially with the rate or the way last year ended, I should say, for Tampa Bay, because it wasn't pretty. And obviously he's been there forever. He's never played for anybody else. That has to be at least enticing to a player to go and try a different team and see what it's like over there. You know, grass is always greener kind of a thing. But I do believe that this is just partially, strong arming Tampa Bay into giving him a very lucrative contract.
This is what I can get elsewhere.
Exactly. And we all know that his career is he's got less games in front of him than he does behind him.
Yeah.
So is this the last year for Mike? How many more years do you have? And I think that's kind of been the question for Tampa Bay for the last couple of weeks is, are you playing next year? Are you retiring? What's going on?
I've heard a lot of teams looking, we'll get him. I've
Absolutely.
heard San Francisco linked to him.
Oh,
I've heard Buffalo.
San Francisco's about to drop Ayuk, from what I understand. Finally. That should have happened a while ago, but I'm sure they were waiting for
Jennings
contracts.
Is another one.
Yep. Again, I think Mike is heavily considering going somewhere else, but I do believe in his heart he doesn't want to play anywhere else. But again, I don't know Mike like that. I'm not in the camp. Whatever he decides is his decision.
Well, he's one of those OG type guys that would like to play his whole career in the one team.
More than likely, he's one of those guys as well, though, that would like to win one more ring before he does retire. And trust me, he is a Hall of Famer. This guy is one of the best wide receivers to ever play football. And I would hate. Well, actually, no, I can't say that. I would love to see him leave Tampa Bay being a Falcons fan. But as I said before the break, it's going to be weird. It's going to look weird. Like, there are some players that just shouldn't be in other people's helmets.
Yeah, I think he comes back, but it'll be a long, drawn-out thing.
Julio should never have left Atlanta. To be honest, Ocho should never have left the Bengals. Like, there are some players that should just never leave their teams. And Mike Evans is one of them, at least to me. We got to take a break. On the other side, we're going to talk a little BC men's basketball as they get set to get started in playoffs. We'll talk to head coach Greg McCall. I'm excited because this man is actually the first sports interview I ever got to do at CSUB. So I'm actually very excited to talk to this man. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. Welcome back. Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. And we'll get back to some football news on the other side of our guests here. We got to talk BC basketball first, as they are set and ready to go for playoffs. They are down there in San Diego awaiting their first opponent in the Western State Conference. And to talk about that is their head coach, Mr. Greg McCall. Coach, thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Before we get to the game and everything, I have to do a little bit of self-indulgence here. I don't know if you remember me, but you were actually my first interview at CSUB while I was a writer there for The Runner. And I got to do a story for you and your about yourself and your family, your son, Justin, who was playing there at the time, and obviously Duana and your other daughter. And I just have to ask, how's the family? Do they all have hops like pops still?
Yeah, they still have hops like pops, but actually, pops don't have no more hops.
Oh, come on, Coach. You got some left.
Any hops,
You got to have some left.
But it sounded good. It just sounded really good. Hops like pops. So.
Well, thank you. You coined that for me, so that won me an award that year too. So I appreciate you for that. But let's talk a little bit about the Renegades. You guys have been on an absolute tear. Won 7 of your last 10, 8 of your last 12, and you are awaiting your first opponent here in the playoffs for state. How do you guys feel going into today?
I feel really good about it, man. And first off, man, these guys, we got all Bakersfield guys on the roster except for one kid, and he's from the Central Valley area, from Fresno. And it just, says a lot about the kids from Bakersfield. And, when I took the job, the old AD there, Reggie Bolton, I always give credit to him, man, for believing in me. He told me, one of the things he told me, man, we want to bring basketball back to the community of Bakersfield. And if you can do that, man, the job is yours. And that's what I promised him, man, and that's what I've been able to deliver with these guys. And it just hats off to those guys, man, and I'm proud of them. But, yeah, we're sitting here. We're ready to go. We have a tough opponent, Palomar. They're a really good team. But I think we're ready to play some good basketball today.
Name drop some of the players that are the star players for you. I know you got Henderson. Mr. Kerr gave me a little bit of a rundown yesterday on the main guys, but I know Henderson's been having a great season. I see here that I apologize, I lost his name. Markel Brooks. Markel Brooks has also been balling out. Talk about some of these guys.
Yeah, you got the main 2 guys. Those are the guys that we really kind of feed off of a lot, Zykeer Henderson. And believe it or not, Zykeer, he's a freshman for us. And Markel is a sophomore who's been with me for 2 years. He's helped build this program, man. And I always take my hat off to Markel because he's our leader. He's our energizer. He's the one that gets us going. And one of the things when you know that you're playing for something special, man, he's like, hey, coach, look, let's do this. We know Zykeer, man. Let's feed off of him. If we all feed off of him, then we'll go far. We'll go further than we've ever been. And you got a sophomore who's a leader. That said, we wanted the ball to go through him as well, too. But he was like, no, let's feed off of him. And then I'll get mine off of him, and then everybody else get theirs off of everybody else. And so that's one of the things about a great leader.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to be led in order to be a great leader. And so, man, that says a lot about him, man. But, yeah, those 2 guys, then, big Zach Garnett from Frontier, he's playing really well. E.J. Wade from Garces, he's playing really well. I'm kind of giving you our starting 5. And then we had the kid from Fresno who's playing. He's one of our starters. And then we have a really strong bench. We have Godwill Famuso, who played at Centennial. We have Damari Davis. He played at Liberty. We have Joaquin Rios, who was at Stockdale. We have Caden Marion, who is also from Liberty over there as well, too. So our bench is just as strong as well, too, man. And they compete every single day in practice, man. The competition in practice is fierce.
Love that.
So these guys are really good, man.
Well, now that we know more about the Gade squad, what kind of challenges does this Palomar College present to our team, and what can we expect tonight?
Well, I can tell you this. They average about 33s a game. So they're going to put them up. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. Whether they go in or not, they're going to live and die by the 3-point shot. And so we are definitely one of those teams that where we got to be able to step out and defend. But that's one of the luxuries we do have. We're an athletic team, and we can play big and we can play athletic and we can play small if we need to. But we're a very, very athletic team where we can switch a lot of those screens and we can play some zone and kind of chase them off the 3-point line. If not chase them off, for sure, have contest a lot of those threes where they can shoot a lot of contested shots. And we are a great rebounding team, especially on the offensive end. And so that's something that we built up. I give credit to my assistant coaches for that, Stephon Carter and Jasmine Dixon. And Jasmine Dixon, who's really, really been a big part of that. She's the one that really like focuses in on them offensive rebounding. They know if Jasmine Dixon says, "Hey man, you guys are gonna run if we ain't offensive rebounding," they're gonna run. But that shows a lot about my team. One of the things I always said to myself this year, I said, look, I got to stay out of the way of these guys. We're good enough to play. I'm just going to guide them and kind of manage them. And if you watch me more than ever, I sit down a lot and I let those guys kind of do their thing. They kind of know what to do, especially this time of year now. They really kind of know what to do. I just kind of guide them and lead them and throw a couple plays in here and there, make some subs here and there. But they kind of manage themselves, man, because they really want to win.
Right.
And they did it a lot, man. But, like I said, with all local guys. And they always say they playing for the city of Bakersfield, not just Bakersfield College, but the whole city of Bakersfield.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you built an incredible staff down there. I know Stephon personally as well. I went to high school with him. And honestly, like from what I can see here, from what I've heard from Greg Kerr, who obviously covers you guys extensively, I hear it's a very, very press heavy defense and you guys get after it on both sides of the ball. You talked about bringing basketball back to the community, and obviously that starts with a winning culture. Did you just kind of see this as an easy transition for you? Obviously going from CSUB to BC, this is a tall order though, obviously bringing an entire community together through your sport. How do you kind of deal with that challenge, and has it been difficult?
I could tell you this, when I first took the job, it was a lot of praying. It really was a lot of praying, a lot of believing, and you having your faith. You got to have strong faith. And so I did a lot of praying about it. And believe it or not, man, when I first took the job, I only had 2 guys that were on the roster. And those 2 guys was Joaquin Rios and Isaiah Perry. And Isaiah Perry couldn't play this year. There was somebody else we were depending on, but he couldn't play this year because he had something going on with his heart. So he had to cut his basketball career short.
Oh.
And so those 2 guys are on the roster. And, man, I took a group of guys. I said, hey, man, I don't know if we're going to have a team. I'm going to have to go out and beg guys. And so I did a training camp. And when I did a training camp, I had almost 30 plus guys coming to this training camp, wanting to play for Bakersfield College. And I took that training camp and looked at guys in the community and narrowed it down to like 20 some guys, and I had to do a second one just to kind of make sure I gave the guys that were made the first cut out of it an opportunity to see if they'll be able to stick and make the team. And those guys did, and now we built it up from there. And then I had so many guys, I was able to redshirt guys like Damari Davis. He was a redshirt freshman. Tatum Marion is a redshirt freshman. And so we redshirted those guys. Amarian Armstrong is a redshirt freshman. So all those guys we redshirted. And then I brought in a group of, we had some guys to come back, Markel Brooks. Everybody decided to come back, and we just built off of it. And I brought in some dynamic freshmen, which is Ikir Henderson is one of them, and Big Zach Garnett is another one.
That's incredible. And we have such a rich amount, or we have a good amount of fantastic athletes in this community. And I'm glad to hear that you putting on this training camp obviously gave a lot of them the opportunity to come and play for you and show what they can do. Because there are so many athletes that I feel get just slept on in this community. And we are a gold mine to a lot of these scouting, these scouts that are looking for players for the next level. Have you seen a lot of them come forward and try to obviously lure your guys into a 4-year university?
Yeah, this year. And that was another thing that I was like, man, because, my second year. And on top of that, I have been coaching women's basketball.
Yes.
I've been doing that for the past 27 years, starting off at Taft College. And then I did 17 over at Cal State, 13 as the head coach over there. So transitioning back to the men's side, because I started off with men, but transitioned back to the men's side, that was a huge transition in itself.
Talk about that real quick.
Say it again.
Talk about that real quick. How is that transition going from women's to men's?
You know what? It's been really, really, really good. And it could be because I have such a really good group of guys I've had for the past 2 years.
Right.
But it's been really good transition. Of course, now I had to get back to used to watch guys play above the rim at times versus below the rim. But it's one of those things where when I was coaching the young ladies, you know, they all want to be treated the same. They just treat them like athletes.
Right.
They want to be treated like athletes, and so coach them like athletes. And so that's something that I had to learn how to do when I first made the transition over to women, because I didn't know how to. I never thought in my lifetime I would coach women's basketball, but I thought this is something that God wanted me to do, not only for the community of Taft as well as Bakersfield, but for my own personal self with my own daughters, because they were, you know, coming up and playing and stuff like that. The one had already started to kind of form her own identity a little bit, but I just added to it. And so it kind of helped me a lot to transition into that with them and her, and then Erica, you know, with her career and stuff like that. So that's how I was able to start coaching women. But then coming back to the men, it was really, really, like I said, it made it easy for me. But just getting used to above the rim stuff again, and being able to put in live plays was pleasant. So
hey, you know, that's a good point. That's always helpful.
In there.
Well, I'm excited personally. I'm a big basketball guy, and I mean, it sounds like we've been blessed over at BC to be able to get an experienced coach. And I mean, you're on your second year, and we're already in the state playoffs. So for people that haven't heard of these state playoffs, can you actually, you know, break down on how this, you know, tournament playoffs are set, the format, and you know, is it you know, the usual win or go home type format?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely you win and go home. It's kind of like already our March Madness, I guess you could say.
Okay.
This is our tournament. This is where it starts at. And so you continue to play until you lose. And every game counts. And you have to be on your A game every single time. It's not like the NBA where you're playing 2 out of 3 or best out of 7 or whatever the case may be. But you're here, you're trying to play. And you one game, you go home. So it can't be the fact that you're on the road. You have to become, you know, even though you're at their home place, you got to become like that's part of your, you know, your culture as well too. And we struggled at the beginning of the year on the road, really, really bad. If you look at our road record at the beginning, we struggled. We had to figure out and learn how to play on the road. And if we didn't learn how to play on the road, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And so we've been able to discover that and find out that, hey, man, the rim is still 10 feet. The court is still 94 by 50, no matter where you go. And we just got to play. We can't worry about being at home and being on the road. We just got to play the game the same way we play at home. And so those guys learn how to do that. And it took a lot of, you know, molding, and they wanted it just as bad as I did, but it took a lot of molding and shaping to be able to learn and to train these guys to be able to play mentally on the road. So it's been really good. Really, really good.
Well, I'm excited. I'm pumped. Go get them, coach. And for, you know, some of us that are stuck here in Kern County, is there any chance that you guys will be streaming this game, or is there any option on being able to watch it, or are we just gonna have to watch the ticker?
Yeah, I know right now they're supposed to stream it, but I know right now they have it set up for live stats.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing I saw on the website. They have live stats, but I'm hoping that they find some type of way to stream. You know, some community colleges don't have the access to it, you know, to be able to live stream and stuff like that. That's one of the great things I could say about our school and our program is the fact that we do such a great job on campus. My administration, the people that's above me, as well as the people that are our social media department, our marketing department. And Alicia, she does a great job of getting everything streamed. So we have a great opportunity here in Bakersfield, man. It's just the sky's the limit on what this program can do next. And so we're doing a lot of special things. The biggest thing for me right now is just kind of focusing in on what we got right now. But we're going to be doing a lot of special things that I want to talk about later on with you guys down the line, or as us, you know, trying to do, you know, team camps again, hosting high school team camps.
Love that.
You know, the high schools, local high school teams like we did last year, coming to our new facility and play in our new facility. We have a brand new facility there. We're going to be going outside, hopefully this year outside of the state of California, taking our team to the national JUCO Jamboree so we can get even more national exposure.
Nice.
Scouts are coming in. They're trying to snag up Zykeer, Markel, all of our sophomores, Godwill for Musso. They're really trying to come in and snag these guys up. So that's been a blessing to be able to have these 4-year colleges to come in. And some D1s, D2s, all the way down to NAIA Division III schools that are coming in and offering these guys scholarships to play at the next level. So
Well,
we're moving in the right direction.
You got our number. You are always more than welcome anytime to come back on our show. But I know you got practice coming up.
Yes.
Go get them, Coach, and we'll talk to you real soon, and we'll get an update from you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Coach. Let's take a break ourselves. We will get into some other stuff on the other side, maybe get our comments on what is to come here for our Renegades as well. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. I don't think that liner's supposed to play anymore. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. We got a couple minutes before we get our guy Ryan Holt in here, talk all things Bakersfield Condors. Unfortunately, the Condors fell to the Wranglers on Friday while I was there.
And lost last night.
They lose to the Eagles last night?
Yep.
All right. We still have greener pastures ahead of us. I'm telling you, I see a cup in the future. I do. It's shiny, right there next to the horn. It's going to be just right there in Bakersfield. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But let's shift over real quick. I thank you to Coach McCall for joining us, by the way. Hopefully the Gades win today, and we'll be able to watch that or something. Go to gogades.com, I believe, is the easiest way you could find the streaming. I'm sure they'll have somebody down there streaming the game. Usually they do. For these big games, I would assume, but there are technical situations that get in the way of that a lot of the time. Certain teams, not allowing certain colleges to come and do their thing and all that type of hoopla. But we do hope that Coach McCall and the Renegades do very well today, and I loved the Hoosier reference. That was awesome. That was really cool. What do you want to get into, my friend, before we get into our talk about hockey with Ryan Holt? You know what? Should we talk about the CBA, the WNBA? I'm gonna get this out of the way. I mean, Stephen A. Smith said it himself, and we could play the audio for you if you want. We've been saying it for months, but the CBA deal between the WNBA and the players and the owners, it's not going well. Their players still want their cut. I think everybody is in agreement that, yes, they deserve their cut, but Stephen A. Smith parroted exactly what we've been saying for a while now. Let's hear from him real quick.
They deserve their money. They deserve their cut.
For sure.
They've helped build this league into what it is. That's the one side. The other side is that the owners have been here too. And they're saying over a lengthy period of time, we've been losing money. We ain't trying to lose more. And that's where the lines are drawn in the sand. So what you have to ask yourself as ladies is, look at what you've built and look at all that's happening in the world of sports. Can you afford to jeopardize a season?
Yeah.
Because in the end, the owners who are not known, who are not in the public eye, who are not public faces for the league, they could sit back and say, hey, we got our money. We ain't trying to lose more. So it hurts the game and we can't make it, but we ain't trying to lose more anyway. You're ladies, you're trying to make this money and you're trying to build off the league. And my advice, and I've said this in the past, would be this. Continue to strive hard to get yours, be reasonable, understand where the lines are drawn in the sand and go from there. But a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Whoever is the marketing, whether it's the Caitlin Clark, it's the Unesco's or anybody else, ride those waves unapologetically because ultimately it builds the popularity of the league and everyone will benefit in some capacity down the line. It can't always be about what you want in the immediate. You have to have a marathon's point of view as opposed to a sprinter.
We've been saying that for a while. And honestly, I think that is the most brilliant way to put it. Although everybody knows you deserve the money, we got to figure out how to build this league first and make sure the money is sustainable before you start spreading it around to places.
Well, they shoot themselves in the foot. They start paying these players before they have the foundation.
Exactly.
And then there's been talks about expansion teams and all of this, and they're going to dig a hole deeper without enough people watching it to conserve and continue to be able to play and pay these players. And there's not always going to be a Caitlin Clark at every draft, but there is some big names coming in the next 2 to 3 years. And I would not doubt if they can just talk the players into buying in and seeing the bigger pie that's coming and let them put that foundation in before they start, being able to pay these types of players, because I would hate to see the WNBA fold.
That's what I'm thinking too. And I know that the expansion teams are kind of what sparked the outrage from the players a little bit, because they're saying, oh, you have money to build more teams, but you don't have money to pay us more. And in a way, I could see their point. But at the same time, all you're doing with building more teams is you're giving more athletes more opportunity to make money. And you're also giving you more opportunity to make money because you get more games. And when you get more games, that means more games get put on television. More television means more money. More money means your pocket gets fuller.
More locations, more viewerships.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all a part of business.
And that's why I agree. And I mean, again, we've been saying it for a while now. We've said it with our guy, Chris Flail. We've said it with a lot of people. And honestly, who we should talk to is Coach McCall's daughter, Tawana Barner. And I'll reach out and hopefully maybe get an answer here because she, former WNBA player, huge in the WNBA. I think Erica actually had a stint in the WNBA as well. Would love to talk to them and see what they think about all this or how the
state of the
state of it
WNBA.
is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, everybody across the board, I think, agrees these women deserve more money. That is not a question. But the question is, where you gonna get it? If you don't have the money to spread around, it's almost impossible for them to pay you more.
Yeah, they pay you up front now. And then what is the future of the sport?
Right. And I know a lot of people say, well, the NBA funds the WNBA. And although that's fair, Adam Silver is at the center of all of these conversations. And he even said that most of the stuff gets done at the 11th hour, in which is it's pretty much 10:30 right now,
Right.
10:45. It's about to hit 11. So maybe a deal gets done right before. We'll see. But at this point right now, I just think that the argument, or at least the back and forth, and the fact that we can't find at least a middle ground is concerning. Because like Stephen A. Smith said, take into account if you don't have a season, you're going to be taking the brunt of everybody's criticism. It's not going to come down on the ownership. It's going to come down on Caitlin Clark. It's going to come down on Cameron Brink. It's going to come down on all of these fantastic athletes who are just trying to fight for their, piece of the pie. And I understand that. But if you don't have the financial backing, it's almost impossible to pay you more, ladies. I'm sorry, it is. And like Stephen A. said, these owners have been losing money for years keeping this league afloat. Years. So at what point do we really sit there and say, okay, they have to get their cut of the pie too? Because although you've been getting a piece, mom and dad have been given the rest of the pie to the neighbors, and they don't get any of it. Oh, and by the way, the neighbors are expecting the other piece that you just gave to you. At what point is this thing going to break? We have no idea. I'm hoping that a deal gets done here very soon and we don't have to worry about an NBA or a WNBA lockout and most likely shutdown of a season and potentially folding of a league, because that is kind of the direction that we are headed. And I know a lot of these women are sitting there saying, well, at least we have our own side leagues that we can go to. But are those even going to be sustainable? We'll find out, I guess. Let's take a break. We got to get into some hockey on the other side. Obviously, we got to get into the U.S. men's and women's teams, but our own Condors as well have a very, very, very pivotal 4-game road stand in which started yesterday. So we'll talk to our guy Ryan Holt about that. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk.
Text into the Early Bird
disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the
Welcome back. Early special. Sorry about the bobblehead got me. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is the early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. It's time to talk hockey with our favorite Condor. That'd be Mr. Ryan Holt. Sir, good to see you.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Oh, can't complain, my friend. Can't complain. Once again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of Friday's game and all that. Unfortunately, didn't go our way against the Wranglers, but I mean, I still see a bright future for this team. I know we've dropped the last two one against the Wranglers on Friday, as I said, and then Colorado last night. But I mean, what's the mindset still look like for this team? We're still third in the division right now. I think we're about a point ahead still? 2 points?
Yep. Yeah, still kind of, treading water right where we've been, in that third spot for, what feels like the last month and a half, right? And every time we have a crack at, Colorado or Ontario, just haven't been able to, kind of reel them in. Definitely dropped a point on Friday. I think anybody who was at the game, the Condors played a better game, but that's a desperate Calgary team, right? They're fighting tooth and nail. I mean, we've been in that spot, right, where every point matters, and it's desperation, and you're trying your best here down the stretch to scratch and claw. And they credit to them, they came out 6-on-5, tied it, and ended up winning in overtime. So it's disappointing, I think, on Friday. Last night, Colorado's a really good team, and there's no kind of shame in that one. Colorado played well, and they're at home, and you try and go for the split tonight. I think anytime you go to Colorado, you kind of just put in the back pocket that if you get 2 points, you've gained on the rest of the league. So it's a tough place to play and a tough team to play. But some guys need to pick it back up here in the second half of the year. There's some guys, Hudson and Howard haven't been, what they were in December and early January. And that's to be expected, right? You play in the college ranks and you play 40 games, right? And now you're at that kind of 40 game window, right? Like, so now you're into the pro hockey, if you will, right? Like of the next 25 games. So it's going to be a fun stretch run here for this team. There's a lot of time off in between games, so should set up nicely for the group. But yeah, it would be nice to get a win tonight and feel good about yourself heading to Coachella Valley.
So talk about that. Obviously, this team is very young, and a lot of them, are learning about that post 40 game window now. Is that something that fans should be concerned about, or do you think that this is just another one of those hurdles that these kids are going to just be able to jump right over and we get right back to winning hockey?
Yeah, it's just one of those steps, right? And we've seen ebbs and flows from young players, all throughout their time. Whether it was Savoy or Pugliarvi or Yamamoto, guys that have come in the past. It's not a straight line. I wish it was a straight line and make life a lot easier to know.
Absolutely.
This is your mark at 20 years old. This is what you're going to be at 23 years old. But then again, that's why they have scouts, and that's why they have drafting, and that's why they have management, right? So I think for Howard and Hudson, they'll find it here. A couple of the other young guys have already kind of played pro hockey, Mariala and Szymanski, they've already kind of stretched their seasons out a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely an adjustment for those guys that I mentioned, having to go back and play in the rigors and the grind of 68 to 72 games.
Absolutely. And obviously we have to talk about the third H in the pedigree line. Mr. Hamblin has been doing pretty dang well. Now, he didn't extend the goal streak yesterday, unfortunately, but talk about how he's been playing as well as Seth Griffith, who finds himself towards the top in points right now this year. Yeah.
Hamlin's been, Mr. Everything for this team for, going on 5-6 years now. Right. And, here's a guy, and he's a great story for the organization. He was undrafted, out of junior. He wasn't really given a shot. We gave him a shot on an AHL contract during the COVID season. Didn't really know much about him. And then, he had 20 goals the second year, and, ends up getting to the NHL on an NHL contract and makes his NHL debut. And we think that's a good story. And then, a year later, he ends up playing 40 games for the Oilers as a really effective, energy line, third line, penalty kill type of guy. And, you need those guys on a team, and you need effective, dependable guys. At this level, he can provide offense. He has enough skill to provide offense. At the next level, he's more of a shutdown penalty killer. But I think it's, a great story for all players to kind of emulate. And then, for Hamlin, he's just having a rock solid season, and Seth Griffith is doing what Seth Griffith usually does, and that's
Absolutely.
top 5 in the league in scoring and, driving a power play unit. So, we need all of those guys. We got 3 lines going right now and need to keep them going.
Well, with a little over 20 games left with the season, is there anything that you think? I mean, you see more hockey than any of us. So, I mean, going into this final stretch, or a little over a month, is there something that you see that we really need to clean up before the playoff run?
Yeah, I think right now, it's kind of that limbo period. The NHL trade deadline is a week from this Friday, so next week, and we have obviously an NHL team in Edmonton that is pushing for a Stanley Cup, right? They've been to the Cup the last 2 years. Because of that, them to be able to make moves at the NHL level sometimes involves the Condors. So I think this next week it's kind of a jittery kind of week for a lot of guys, and you mentioned Hamlin, right? He's on an expiring contract. What does that look like for the next, week and a half? And, what does, young guys like Howard and Hudson, I mean, they have social media, they can read things and they can see that, their names are bandied about, for the NHL level. So, it's a tough little, and again, these are all adjustments that young guys have to make that you don't have to deal with in junior hockey and college. Like, you just show up and play, right? So, this next week is kind of a skitterish kind of week. And then I think you'll see the team settle in, for the final 17, 18 games, of the season. I think it's a good team. It's a top 4 team in the division, and typically the Pacific is strong regardless of where you are in the AHL. So, excited to see how this team comes together down the stretch. The goaltending has been good. We got Calvin Picker going tonight, so his first start with the team in 2 years. So
Nice.
We'll see how that goes, and hopefully he finds his game, because he's an elite goaltender at this level when he's on his game. So if he's on his game right out of the gate, that's only going to make this team better.
So that's an interesting thought that just popped in my head. I know you just talked about how it's trade time for the NHL. How much are you guys in those talks when it comes to some of the players of the Condors potentially being moved? Do the Edmonton Oilers call you guys and say, hey, just a heads up, this guy may be on the move here in the next couple of weeks if we can get a deal done? Like, is that kind of
I think those conversations come, with Keith Gretzky, our GM, who's, here on a full-time basis, travels with the team on a full-time basis. He's kind of, locked into, what the organization is thinking or needing, in terms of, at the NHL level. Whether it's they need to dump salary. Well, if you have to dump salary, as we know in any sport, you either have to, attach a draft pick or attach a prospect to it. Absolutely. Other trades, other organizations might be interested in a prospect here in Bakersfield, and maybe that helps at the NHL level. Maybe it's a player for player swap, but the Oilers are up against it on the salary cap, right? I think they have $25 and maybe a cup of coffee, until they hit the salary cap. So they've spent the cap. They have their team. They can't do anything right now without moving money out, meaning players out, or cheaper players up. So we'll see what happens. Likely a trade or two is coming over the next week or two. I'm shocked if it isn't. The Oilers want to win the Stanley Cup, and to do that, much like any other sport, usually deadline spur action, and that usually is what happens next week.
Absolutely. And obviously we'll be talking to you next week about all of that and all the moves that potentially could be made. Let's shift over a little bit here to the U.S. men's team winning the gold. Did you actually get to watch the game at all?
Oh yeah, I woke up at 5 a.m. Yep, I had my coffee going, and yeah, it was. I'm a father, and I got another kid on the way, so there's no sleep in my house. So
no, not at all.
Congratulations,
my friend. Definitely not, especially if you're waiting on another one on the way. But your thoughts on the game? I mean, last night the president gave Connor Hellebuyck the Presidential Medal of Freedom for their win. I thought that was pretty cool. But overall, how did you feel about the game? And was this one of those proud American moments for you, like it was for a lot of other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can get, what we think is the greatest sport in the world, the greatest competition in the world, in front of 27 million Americans, watching the game at 5 o'clock in the morning Pacific or 8 o'clock, for most of the country. I think that's awesome, right? And it's best on best. There's the speed at which that game was played was exceptional. I don't think there's any two ways about it. You have the best players in the world going at it for over 60 minutes, and I think that's great. And I think a couple of those guys too have had some disappointing NHL seasons. Hughes and the Devils, that hasn't really gone well this year. Matthews and the Leafs, that really hasn't gone well. Hellebuck and the Jets, that hasn't gone well. So you have guys that have been able to be reinvigorated a little bit. So I think it's cool. It's good once every 4 years. I'm good with it once every 4 years. I don't, the World Cup of hockey and things like that. I don't need all-star games anymore. But once every 4 years is good for me. But yeah, it was cool to see, and obviously, having the U.S. win.
I've never seen an amount of fans, I'll say fans of hockey, just pack out hoagies on a 5 a.m. day, just waiting for this game to start. I could not believe how packed the house was. And
we had some.
I mean, just overall winning it for the first time, 46 years, especially after what Canada did and booing our national anthem. I just think this was one of those perfect storms where everybody got in on it and it worked perfectly. We got the jersey in the back. Love that.
Yeah, the jersey in the background. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's the format and just how it's do or die for 4 straight days or 5 straight days, whatever it may be. And credit to the players because they're they're go, and then you had to kind of come together on a different team for 3 weeks, and then you go back into this, and the NHL's starting back up tonight. So hopefully there's a little boost there for for the NHL down the stretch, and some more eyeballs on the game, which is great. And hopefully obviously, like you mentioned, for a bar in Bakersfield to be packed, or bars to be packed in Bakersfield at 5 a.m. speaks volumes to obviously the interest in hockey, but also just this town and what we've done as well too for the last 30 years.
So last question, then we'll let you go. Do you think that this win for the U.S. team is going to cause a surge in athletes wanting to try hockey? That's something that has been talked about a lot lately.
I would think so. I would, venture to guess, with, soccer championships and soccer gold medals, that kind of plays into it as well too. And, I think there's a reason why, NBA players and NHL players and, heck, even now the NFL's getting involved, right? Like, I mean, everybody wants to, they're gonna go send, Patrick Mahomes to go play flag football next year or 2 years from now. So, it's, they want to play for their countries. They want to, everyone wants, various marketing things to do. And I mean, look at the World Baseball Classic. I mean, that, was kind of a dud for a little bit, but has kind of been reinvigorated, right? With obviously, Shohei not being American and, the best players in the world not being American. And I think part of it too, I think from the U.S. standpoint is it's cool to be an underdog once in a while, like you spend, so much time in basketball or whatever. And you're kind of the big dogs, right? Like you're supposed to win. You're supposed to do things, in hockey, you're third or fourth best probably, in the world rankings every year, so, you add Russia into that mix and you might be third best. So, so it's cool to be the underdog. And I mean, we've always tried to do as many, learn to play and mini condors and youth programs as possible. And we'll continue to do that because, you get, 5-6-year-olds interested in something. And as we know, as parents, chances are you're going to end up spending a lot of your money and, a lot of your time doing that type of activity. So.
Oh, 100%. Sir, thank you so much for your time. As always, we'll talk to you next week and get an update on all things Condors.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Talk soon.
Thanks, brother. Let's shift over real quick because actually I'm glad he brought up the World Baseball Classic. That's what I wanted to end with because we got some weird stories coming out of that, in my opinion. I hear Tarek Skubal not going to be with the team for the long term. He's only going to be pitching 1 game. And then we hear as well that Paul Skeens might only be doing 2. What? Like, I thought the whole point of this was for all of the best players of the MLB to come together and we were all going to win this for America. Why are we even considering this? Like, for Scooble, I kind of understand you're on a contract year and the Detroit Lions the Detroit Tigers, I apologize. And obviously you're trying to get some big money out of that team and it's hard to do that when you're away from it. But I mean, should they not be committed to the whole thing, Sparky? I mean,
if
am I
you're
wrong
gonna
in
do
that?
it, do it right. I scratched my head when I saw that. I didn't know if that was injury concerns or if it came down to money, and it always
comes down
to money.
Well, Tarek Scoobles definitely comes down to money, I would assume, because again, contract year, and he's trying to figure out what his next step is. If he's even going to be playing for Detroit all season long is a talking point. Paul Skeens, though, no, you're not allowed to go anywhere. What is this? Like, I didn't agree with all the internet talking heads who were all crying and saying we should just not let them play at all and they should just not be on the team. I'm not going to go that crazy. No, we need Tarek and Paul Skeens as much as they would like to come and play. I just don't understand why we're limiting it. I thought the whole idea was for you guys to stay the whole time and your teams knew about this and they were completely cool with this. And that's why we have the World Baseball Classic. It's to, make all of that a thing. We cannot take down teams like Japan with two hands tied behind our backs. Literally. Like, I know we have the best hitting rotation in baseball that's going to be representing America. That is absolutely non-negotiable. Bobby Witt Jr., Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Cal Raleigh. We're going to be knocking home runs left and right like it is nobody's business.
Cal hit a bomb yesterday, finally.
But, oh my God. I cannot wait to see how many that boy hits this season. And I'm counting the World Baseball Classic home runs too. I don't care. Same with Kyle. I do not care how many home runs they hit in the World Baseball Classic. I'm counting it towards their all-season numbers.
On top of a big Cavs win last night.
I'm still not convinced. Until I see James take us to the finals, I'm not convinced. This type of basketball, or I should say this type of basketball, his style of play of basketball has traditionally not borne fruit in the playoff. So I am not going to sit here and say that Cleveland is back. I would like to say that. I would like to say that we're a feared team in the East, and Vegas seems to believe we are the most feared team in the East. I still have my concerns.
Well, I had two things. I know we only have a couple minutes. One was the Jets came out yesterday, and they said they're committed to Breece Hall.
I saw
that they're not going to let him walk, and they are working on a long-term deal.
I mean, I'm happy to see that. Don't get me wrong, because that means that the loyalty was there. But it seemed like all we heard last year was them shopping him or wanting to move on from the relationship. So
and
I
it
wonder
turned
what
him
changed.
Up because he had a hell of a year last year.
That must have been.
I thought for sure he's going to shop and look around, but hearing from a lot of the GMs and coaches yesterday at the Combine, they seem to are all in on Breece Hall. Even talked about tagging him in a different way if they need to. But their plan is to bring him back. But the last thing I wanted to bring up was a shakeup in Denver with Peyton not calling the offensive play calls anymore. Which, I mean, we see it with a lot of different teams where they, will have a head coach with a coordinator, but they don't let the coordinator do the play calling. But this one just made me wonder because Peyton has always been the offensive mind play caller. So I don't know if that's more of he believes in this offensive coordinator and thinks he can get the best out of guys like Bo Nix with this offense. Or is it just Sean Payton maybe not adapting to the difference of football since he's last coached?
I have two schools of thought here when it comes to Sean Payton doing this. One, let's see how long this lasts. Because, yes, he says that now.
In the offseason.
But 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season, if they don't have the same success or if they don't have any success, he's going to snatch that clipboard right out of that man's hands. And two, I think this is more to thwart the criticisms that he was getting last season because of that, because of the offensive inconsistencies and because of all of the question marks that we were having about Sean Payton's offense. Maybe this is just him saying, fine, if you guys think I'm so bad, I'm just going to give it to this kid. And then when we're still sucky, then I'm going to take it back. And all of you are going to know it's not my fault.
Put him on a short leash.
Because we have seen multiple times in Sean Payton's career, he loves to divert blame. He loves to do it. And he does it in multiple ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is some sort of power play from him to get all the monkeys off his back and onto somebody else's. And then when they continue to have these offensive problems, he snatches it back and then becomes the savior at some point next season for Denver when they turn it around. Because essentially that is a Sean Payton move to me. But again, I'm a Falcons fan, so maybe I have a little bit of a biases there. Just maybe. We got to get out of here for the day, though. We appreciate all of you guys joining us. Join us tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. We have a guest-filled show once again. Our friends over at Warm Up Athletics, Joel Iriarte and his coach will be joining us once again, talking about Ryan Garcia and their upcoming fights that they just announced. And our guy Anthony will be joining us as well, talk about his open mic that'll be happening at The Well. But until then, we got to get out of here. Thank you guys for joining us. Join us on all social media platforms as well. Sparky, let's get out of here.